So that was immensely entertaining. The Eagles hold off the Rams 28-22. And I think after Saquon Barkley bolted for that 78-yard touchdown, not many people expected this game to come down to the very wire, but it did. The difference, Philadelphia's defense, one of the top 5 units in the league. The Rams defense, well, they grew over the course of the season, but not enough to win a game in a blizzard out there in Philly. So the Eagles win behind Saquon Barkley's 205 rushing yards. That's the 8th most rushing yards in the playoff game in NFL history. And I have to say that the age of the star running back is fully back in force. I think that Christian McCaffrey's trade from the Panthers to the 49ers back in 2022 started a revolution. People were talking about that is way too much to pay for a running back, as if the position was not valuable. Well, Christian McCaffrey proved all those naysayers wrong when he completely transformed what the 49ers were doing. And now we've seen many other star running backs, Saquon Barkley, one of them, change teams and transform their new team's offense. The Los Angeles Rams had the better QB in this game. I think Matthew Stafford is better from the pocket than Jalen Hurts, but it was a snow game. And the weather conditions made it such that there was going to be way more emphasis on the running back position than there even is in a normal game. And I think there's a lot in a normal game. I mean, the Eagles beat the Rams several weeks ago on the fuel of a really, really powerful rushing attack, which was spearheaded by Saquon Barkley. But in a snow game, running back became even more important. And Saquon was awesome today. The way that he read his blocks, and then the home run speed. The Rams, they have the number 20th ranked run defense in the NFL. That ended up catching up with them. The Eagles on paper were a much better team than the Rams over the course of this whole season. But in this game, especially in the playoffs, and we've seen it play out over the wild card round and now over the course of the first 3 games of the divisional round, if you have the better quarterback, you have a chance to win, even if you don't have the better team. Matthew Stafford did give the Rams that chance. It just wasn't enough, especially in that snow against the team that had Saquon and that offensive line on the other side. So it's going to be Eagles and Commanders in the NFC Championship game. That is, of course, a rematch. Several rematches ago, it was the of the body bag game. I mean, this is the NFC East, right? These two teams have played a whole heck of a lot. So we're not going to talk about the body bag game as if it was the last time that these two teams played, but it is a good illustration of how much Washington and Philadelphia do dislike each other. The body bag game back in the early 1990s featured Buddy Ryan and several Eagles players saying that Washington was going to have to go home in body bags. And then they started calling for body bags during the game after so many Washington players got hurt. It's a Monday Night Football game. And Washington actually was down to their 3rd quarterback in that game. And that was the emergency quarterback. That meant Brian Mitchell was their quarterback in that football game. The running back in that game, it was a precursor of what would happen to the 49ers when they went to Philadelphia for the NFC Championship game in the 2022 season. They actually instituted a 3rd quarterback rule because of the initial body bag game, and then they had to institute the 3rd quarterback rule because of the Brock Purdy injury game in Philadelphia. So this is going to be another NFC Championship in Philly, the first since the Eagles beat the 49ers in that QB injury game. We're going to fill out the rest of the AFC bracket ahead of the AFC title game here very shortly, as we get to see the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. That's going to be that. Well, I mean, that's the headlining game. It starts at 5:30 Central Time. That's where I'm at right now. 3:30 Pacific Time. But boy, was that a good game. Anytime it's in the snow, it's very photogenic. And it came down to a couple of those turnovers. The Kyren Williams fumble was extremely damaging. Williams ran for 106 yards, so the Rams had something going on the ground, but that fumble wasn't it. The Rams did get a safety going back the other direction against Jalen Hurts, who was playing with a knee injury, and you got to wonder about the knee moving forward for the NFC Championship game. I think the Commanders are going to have the better quarterback in the NFC Championship game, and I think that's a big deal, even though the Eagles do have the better team. But Hurts, to his credit, took only a safety when the interior offensive line got beat, instead of trying to turn that into something else and throwing a pick or fumbling the ball out of the end zone. That could have been extremely damaging in this game. So holding that to just the 2 points of damage was huge, because then the Rams kicked off, or the Eagles kicked off right after that, and then the Rams fumbled. The Kyren Williams fumble happened shortly after the Jalen Hurts safety. So a good example of, stuff is going poorly. Something went wrong on the play. You're in your own end zone, but just eat it and live to fight another day. Don't try to make more than there's actually there, because then you could just dig a deeper hole. So I thought Jalen Hurts did a good job managing the game in that instance. It was really interesting to see the tush push not work, and I think a lot of it was the Jalen Hurts knee situation. Then on the third down, they false started. It was Lane Johnson finally called for a false start, and that led to the Eagles kicking a field goal. This was all part of the process to keep the Rams in the game. And then Matthew Stafford, I have to be impressed, 324 passing yards, 2 touchdowns in those conditions, but he didn't quite have enough in the tank, and he ended up taking, I think, 4 or 5 sacks in this football game. We'll see. Let's look at the defensive stats for the Eagles, and the sacks they were able to rack up. 2 for Jalen Carter, including the big one that stymied the Rams at the very end. 1 for Nolan Smith, and then 2 more from their defense. So that is 5 sacks for Philadelphia's defense at very opportune times, especially that last one for Jalen Carter put the game on ice. Meanwhile, other side of the ball, that Rams pass rush is real. And looking forward, the NFC West is going to have trouble with this Rams front. They had 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 sacks in this football game, and that is a good Philadelphia offensive line. Now, I know that the snowy conditions made it tough to get rid of the football, to run routes, all that. So you have to look at games in the snow with an asterisk. But I think that we saw between the win over the Minnesota Vikings, and didn't that happen on Monday night? Yeah, so the Rams had a fairly short week. They had to go Monday to Sunday. But between where they terrorized Sam Darnold on Monday night and this game against the Philadelphia Eagles and one of the best offensive lines in all football, to see the Rams rack up 7 sacks, that defensive line has arrived over the back half of the season. The 5-game win streak, the Rams were one of the better defenses in football after starting the season as one of the worst defenses in football. So these guys are going to be tough to deal with. Now we'll see how long Matthew Stafford plays for. That's obviously going to be the huge key for the Rams moving forward. But as long as he's under center, Matthew Stafford, the Rams are going to be a very dangerous team, and they're only going to become more dangerous with how that defense is now developing. But it's going to be the Eagles and the Commanders next week. Jalen Hurts avoiding questions about his injury in the postgame. When asked if he was okay, Jalen Hurts said, quote, "I finished the game." And that was it. So I don't know if the spread is out for next week yet. Let's take a look to see if it is for the NFC Championship. But Commanders have the better quarterback. And if the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles is hurt, and it appears that Jalen Hurts is hurt, that's got to tighten that game up a little bit. It is Philadelphia -5. I believe that they went 1-1 against each other in the regular season. So the Eagles favored by 5 for the NFC title. That's going to be Sunday, a week from now at noon. It's going to be the early game Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern time in Philadelphia. So the later game is going to be in Kansas City, and it's going to feature the Ravens or the Bills facing the Kansas City Chiefs. So my Super Bowl prediction of Eagles Bills still stands. I think that either the Bills or the Ravens, assuming that Josh Allen and or Lamar Jackson leaves this game healthy, I think they're going to wipe the floor with the Chiefs next week. That's my prediction for the AFC Championship. And I'm not sure about that NFC Championship. I did predict earlier that it'd be Eagles and Commanders. I was texting with Mike, and he says that he's changing his prediction. Mike said that he's going to the Commanders now because of the Jalen Hurts injury and because of how well Jaden Daniels has been playing. But both teams are going to know each other really well. Is this the first intra-divisional NFC championship game since the 49ers and the Rams? I believe it is. Yeah, it is the first intra-divisional NFC championship game since the Niners and the Rams played for the third time to end that 2021 season in SoFi. We got some comments coming in. 49ers need a Jalen Carter type defensive tackle. Well, maybe they have that in Javon Hargrave, but they're going to post June 1st release him and hope that they can get him back on a pay cut. I mean, Hargrave was extremely disruptive for Philadelphia. We're talking top 3 defensive tackle disruption levels in his final season or final 2 seasons before free agency. 49ers picked him up after that 2022 season. He's been productive for them, but he also tore his triceps muscle and wasn't able to play from week 3 onward in this 2024 season. But yes, I agree. You could use more at that defensive tackle position. So here's a look at the 49ers roster. And this is 2024. Let's get 2025 open. Because this year, this is what it looked like at defensive tackle. You had Collins and Elliott on the inside, finished the season healthy, but you didn't have Javon Hargrave there anymore. And Jordan Elliott wasn't much of a pass rusher at all. Malik Collins, I think, rushed the passer fine, but the 49ers could definitely use another body on the inside that could win at the rate of Jalen Carter. Now, Carter also forced the fumble against Kyron Williams with the punch out that came right after the play that was the safety against the Eagles. The Rams picked up 2 points, but then Jalen Carter was able to get them right back for the Philadelphia Eagles with the punch out, then the return. And I think that turned into a field goal for Philadelphia. Question how teams let Carter slip down the draft. Well, there were major character issues coming out of Georgia for Jalen Carter. So that's how he slipped down to the Eagles. 49ers Eddie is happy. Rams fumbled twice. Amazing collapse. It was a collapse, that's for sure, because of those turnovers, but it was also in snowy weather, and I thought the Rams fought hard in this game. I mean, they fought till the very end, despite on paper being the worst team. I thought Matthew Stafford did all that he could in this football game, but he was sacked several times, and the Philadelphia Eagles were the more complete team. We talked about them being a top 5 defense on top of the good offense, and the Rams just didn't have that on the other side. But boy, the Rams are going to be dangerous moving forward. That defense started to find its stride. They won 5 straight to close the regular season. I'm not counting the game where they played the backups against Seattle. And the 49ers had their work cut out for them to continue competing in this NFC West. I think they should still be favored next year with a healthy roster. This was this year's roster, but the Rams have shown that they're not going any place anytime soon with their run at the end of the season. All right, a couple more questions, and then we got to start Ravens-Bills. Just wanted to take you through this for a few minutes before Ravens-Bills. This was our quick little instant reaction. We'll have our bigger one a little bit later tonight. 49ers will have a favorable schedule this year, and the Rams won't this next year, I should say, or 2025. Rams finished in first, 49ers finished in last. Anyway, that was awesome. That was a cool snow game. Saquon Barkley helps usher in the new age of the star running back. 8th most rushing yards in a postseason game in NFL history. It's going to be the Eagles and the Commanders. We'll see, though, because Jaden Daniels is playing out of his mind right now. He's making an argument to be the best quarterback in the league with the way that he's playing. So we'll see how that goes this next week in the NFC Championship. The Eagles squeak by the Rams at home, And that dream of my correct prediction, the Eagles against the Bills in the Super Bowl, is still alive, but I don't know what's going to happen next week. Everybody enjoy Ravens Bills. That's coming up. We'll talk to you after the game.